Chicago region's public transportation agencies are now beginning to plan their so-called doomsday budgets that could see service slashed by 40% across the CTA, Metra, and PACE in 2026. It's due to a massive budget shortfall that state lawmakers failed to fill during their spring session in Springfield. Combined, they face a funding shortfall of over $770 million. And while the state Senate passed a bill to fill that funding gap, the House never even debated it. So joining me now to talk about where they go from here is Southside Representative Kam Buckner. Representative, thanks so much for joining me this morning.
And thank you for having me. Good morning.
Why didn't the House take up the bill that was passed by the Senate, especially after hearing about this transportation fiscal cliff and the potential for these massive cuts for months?
It was simply an issue of timing. So the way the state constitution works is that anything that passes the legislature after May 31st needs a certain threshold of votes. And so what happened was that the Senate took up their bill at about 11:25 p.m. on Saturday night, which only gave them 25 minutes to debate it and then 5 minutes to get it over to the Senate, or to the House for us to take a good look at it. And, to be responsible and make sure that we were doing things the right way, the House did not feel it was proper to take that up, especially since there were such large tax increases in there. It would have been ideal to get this done by May 31st. Absolutely, but we're not past the point of no return. We have a second chance, and the moral and the policy imperative now is that we act with deliberation and not desperation. We have a way to get this done before the end of the year.
The governor has said he expects the hard work to continue over the summer, but what does that mean? Do you expect, for instance, that a special session could be called, or?
Yeah, it's very possible. It's very possible that we will have a special session. We've already been preparing for a special session regardless, based on what may be going on in Washington, D.C. with the Trump administration and the fact that we may have to go back to Springfield to fix some things based on whatever the federal government does. But we also have a veto session that will be scheduled sometime in the fall. These service agencies, CTA, Metra, PACE, they approve their budgets at the end of the year in December. They have not a July fiscal date like we do here in the state, but they have a January fiscal date that runs with the calendar. And so we do have some time to get it right. And I'll say this, we will not have to start from scratch. The great thing is that we've done the heavy lifting. We've spent the last year or so talking about structural changes and governance reforms, and we've got that part right? And so now we can spend the next couple of weeks and months figuring out how we deal with the revenue piece, so when we come back to Springfield, whenever they may be, we'll be ready to go.
Well, let's talk about the revenue piece, because the state is facing a massive budget deficit. The city is too, but this, of course, applies to the state. Where potentially could that money come from? Do you back some of the proposals, for instance, taxing ride shares? Because a lot of people are going to probably push back on a lot of these revenue ideas. So what do you do?
To your earlier question, part of the reason the House did not take up this bill was because there were such large pieces of revenue in there that we did not have the time to socialize with our members and for them to socialize with their constituents. And so we thought the responsible thing to do would be to take a beat and come back to the table. But as you said, Dana, there are questions about rideshare fees, about delivery fees, about extra fees on the tollway. I think all of those have been part of the conversation, and we need to be able to parse through them to see what we can do. Listen, Illinois has made a lot of smart decisions recently. From a financial standpoint, I had the honor this year of being a budgeteer, so helping craft the state budget. And while we do have some issues, right, we had a $1.5-ish billion hole, we are in a much better spot than states like California with a $12 billion deficit, or states like Texas with an $8 billion deficit.
So, Representative, for folks at home, real quick, because time purposes here, for folks at home, a lot of people listening will be like, okay, I got all that, but what about me? Am I going to see cuts in the fall before maybe the House takes up this bill? Can you assure your constituents that the service will remain intact, at least through the end of this actual year?
Yeah, we're doing everything we can to make sure that happens. And we'll be talking with RTA, CTA, Metra, and PACE to figure out what happens in this interregnum, this time in between now and whenever our bill passes. This is not a luxury. This is a necessity. We have 8 rail lines, 120 bus routes, 11 commuter rail lines on Metra. We have to get this done, and we will.
Okay, I really appreciate your time. Thanks so much, Representative Kam Buckner. And we, of course, will be checking back in with you in the coming months.
Thanks, Dana.